Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Connect to Home Eastern PA CoC Court Entry Office Hour. It's February 16th, 2023, and I'm your facilitator, Jason Alexander. I'm the Court Entry Consultant, as well as the Written Standards Consultant for the Eastern Pennsylvania Continuum of Care. I encourage you, if you're so willing, to put your name and organization in the chat as we're increasingly getting to know each other and have a number of new members always entering our Court Entry network. I have a few brief news updates or reminders, and then there's the opportunity for you to ask questions using the chat. When you're welcome to make comments and pose questions in advance in the chat, and I'll make sure we address them before we adjourn. And also there'll be an opportunity to just unmute if you want during the Q&A and ask your question verbally. So I want to start with just a couple of updates. If you're, we have, of course, our video training series, and that's accessible through our Eastern PA website, and that's specifically for court entry. And we acknowledge that it has not yet been updated to reflect the new version of Client Track. Functionality is the same, but things look a little different and might be in a slightly different location. And so at some point we'll be updating those training videos, but the content of terms of actual use of the system should be about 95% accurate still. And of course, you can always reach out to a court entry regional manager or myself if you are unclear about something in watching those training videos. But what I also wanted to remind you is that the Eastern Pennsylvania Continuum of Care has a kind of a higher set of standards that are a little more like guidelines or rules for every project type in our network, and that includes a set of written standards for coordinated entry. That doesn't get to the level of detail of policies or procedures of how to do this or how to do that. But it is a document that's worth reading, and I'd encourage you as our court entry team to read it. And there's actually a brief video introduction. First of all, to find the written standards, they're under the CoC website, policies and procedures webpage. So this document right on top, the first file, is our current written standards document. And then there's also a link to our video, which Jackie Condor is not only our court entry regional manager for the Northern Tier region, but is also the chair of the Written Standards Committee. So this link to how to use the standards is a video that Jackie and I recorded that just kind of introduces and walks through the table of contents and why I think it's valuable for court entry specialists and others is that the first section really applies to all project types and goes into more detail on the 5 categories of homelessness as defined by HUD that we work with every day. And then some guidance and not only guidance, but links to expert guidance online in working with specific populations. And you can see there ranging from people fleeing domestic violence, sexual assault, trafficking, to working with people with disabilities, a recent undocumented immigrants. So a lot of that guidance does speak to case management, but just becoming familiar with it, I think would help anyone working with any of our participants just have a little more knowledge and perhaps understanding of the specific kind of needs or situations in that different people experience. Then you can see there is a set of written standards specifically for court entry. Again, these are higher level guidelines or rules. A lot of the court entry written standards are actually for our referral partners and housing providers using the by name list. So if you're curious about what happens after you put someone on the by name list in terms of what the responsibilities are of a partner, or what happens after you make a referral through HMIS to a shelter, for example, or if you're joining this call and you are one of those referral partners, I certainly encourage you to read these standards, because these standards are, really required for any HUD funded program, which includes all of our court entry is HUD funded. and strongly recommended for other programs that are part of the continuum of care. So, you can, and you'll get some more guidance there around kind of how to apply the VI SPDAT, how to determine eligibility for our different projects, but it's all kept at a very high level. So I would just encourage you, if you have not done so, to take a look at those written standards. And again, if you have questions, please reach out to us in the coordinatory operations work group, and we can get you answers if you want clarification. So the next thing I wanted to tell you about is that, HUD Category 2 continues to be a very difficult category to interpret. It comes up in our discussions often. And so I just wanted to put a reminder up. And by the way, if you are a member of our Microsoft team, this explainer is actually, what I'm about to show you, is actually posted in the Teams as a recent message. If you are working as a core entry specialist for 211 or an access site, and you have not joined our MS team, and that's discussion board, where you can ask questions, access important documents, and read more news and information, please send me an email. Unfortunately, Teams is a kind of a clunky thing to subscribe to. So the best thing to do is to send me your request, and I will invite you to join our team, and you'll get an invitation to join that. So what I wanted to just go into in a little more detail is, see if we can be crystal clear on who qualifies for as Category 2, and what's important about that is our Category 2 core entry project enrollment. And I think the most important practical use of this explanation is when someone is eligible for referral to a homeless prevention project. So these are all coming from official HUD sources, so I'm not making any of this up, but it's just important to remember that Category 2 of the homeless definition encompasses all households that are at imminent risk of homelessness, and that'll be defined below. Excuse me, but in addition to situations where a household could lose its residence due to a landlord-initiated eviction action, individuals and families not on a lease could also meet this definition when asked to leave a residence with no other place to go or resources for support. So if you look at the federal law, Category 2 is defined as an individual or family who will imminently lose their primary nighttime residence, and there are 3 criteria that have to be met. And to the best of our knowledge, knowing that you're doing a brief intake and not getting a full picture necessarily, so these will be verified after enrollment, but we should really strive to make sure that the household will lose its primary residence within 14 days, that no subsequent residence has been identified, they have nowhere to go that they're aware of, and that they lack the resources or support networks needed to obtain permanent housing. So if they meet those 3 criteria, we should be doing a CEHP, Cat 2 intake and referral to 1 or more homeless prevention projects. Now, the 3 notes are really important. The first point, residents will be lost within 14 days. That means that the household must physically vacate the unit within 14 days. And here's where we get a lot of questions. As a result of and this is what they might be telling you, and it might not be clear always, wait, does this count? So a court-ordered eviction, a notice to quit, a notice to terminate under state law, or any similar equivalent notice to an eviction action under Pennsylvania law would all qualify the household for a referral to homeless prevention. I think what comes up a lot is notice to quit. Does that count? If they say I have a notice to quit, it does count. The second note I would add, coming from that first paragraph at the top of this page, is Category 2 does include individuals and families who are within 14 days of losing their housing, including housing they own as a homeowner, rent, are sharing with others, or are living in without paying rent. All of those situations are eligible for Cat 2. And then the final note, and it really applies to category 1 and 2, is that individuals and families that are residing in hotels and motels might be eligible for either Cat 1 or Cat 2, depending on how the costs are being paid. So if less than 51% of the costs are being paid for by a charitable organization or a government program, the household is eligible for category 2 if they meet the other criteria above. If more than 51% of the costs are paid for by a charitable organization or a government program, that they are eligible for a category 1 enrollment and placement on the by name list. So there's a lot there. I know there's a lot of ongoing training and interpretation that goes on. So I want to stop here and hear any feedback, additional questions, or conversation about this, unanswered questions you have about category 2.
There is one thing that's come up in some of my conversations, Jason, is when they have savings for their first month's rent or the security deposit, and I tell them, you know, that is like savings, so that is actually resources for them, correct? That they can use toward that hotel or toward help until that is gone, correct?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Eileen.
Some people are in a hotel and you know, they're self-paying, they have to leave next day, but they have a savings they have done. They're starting to save for their new house. You know what I mean? Then they're calling us for assistance. So if I find out they have a savings, I tell them they have to spend that first, correct? Before they can be eligible, correct?
They have to spend that savings on paying for hotel costs first?
Yes, first, if they have a savings toward their first month's rent and security deposit. That's happened quite a bit, where people will ask us for help, even though they have some sort of a savings because they're trying to get into a new house. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's definitely a difficult question. I think it goes back to the criteria of category 2. So I do not believe we should be saying, oh, you should spend your savings on your hotel. I honestly, I mean, this is a longer discussion because this is kind of outside the formal definition.
Exactly. And it's happened several times to me when I've called and they said, well, we have been saving our money, but, you know, and I'm not quite sure what to tell them. So I usually say, well, you know, I don't know.
I mean,
really.
I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, but unless there's an organization in your county that can actually help with security deposit and first month rent, and I don't know if that's true in every county, a hotel like here where we live, even if you have money for hotels and it's graduation or there's a football game, you're going to be paying $500 for a room that you spent $50 for. So it's, I don't know. It's sort of like saying, don't be self-sufficient and save your money to stay at a place that there's no guarantee you can stay at, where you have no real legal rights.
I'm sure I'm just throwing that out though, Jason, just to let you know that that is happening when I'm finding out they do have other money. But I know then it says the individual lacks the resources. So if they don't have resources, wouldn't that be including savings?
Well, this is what I would say, Eileen. I don't think we're in a position to do a full financial assessment. In fact, we're not supposed to do that. So we don't know for sure whether those savings are enough to obtain permanent housing, if you know what I mean. I think our job is to if we think they meet the category definition, our job is to refer them to homeless prevention programs who are going to do, and at intake, their program intake, that financial assessment.
Okay, that sounds like a good answer to me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Jason, I'm going to actually add to that what Eileen was saying, because we have so many people that we see and they prefer just not to spend their money. That, like Eileen said, they have income, they have money, but they don't want to spend their money. They want to spend somebody else. And there are people that are, their plan is to live in hotels permanently.
Mm.
I mean, I guess that's probably not their long-term plan, but that's what their plan is. They have no interest or desire to change where they're currently staying, and they're completely okay with staying in a hotel. However, the problem becomes each month they become homeless over and over again because they're not resolving it. And we find that a very, I'm going to say, severe issue in our county because one, there's a lack of housing, but the individuals that are doing this are people that have exhausted all housing opportunities. They basically have been kicked out of, all the landlords that would rent to them. They have been kicked out of public housing, and they're choosing now to just stay in hotels. And where do we draw the line when we continue to let them become homeless the 14th of every month?
Mm-hmm. That's really insightful. So this feels like a system level question and so we'll bring it to the appropriate committees and governing board to discuss. And in addition, I believe I know I mentioned last month during office hours that we also have a dedicated diversion work group working on a proper diversion strategy that will hopefully get at this issue. So again, I really appreciate hearing that. I'm gonna report that up. But I think for our purposes at coordinated entry, we can't do that financial assessment. We can't know for sure, and we should probably. I believe we should not be attempting to provide that kind of counseling. If they present during the screening and intake as meeting the criteria for Cat 2, we should refer them to homeless prevention.
Yeah, I was actually astounded because I've had people call and they have a lot of savings, and they are just like Jeanette said, not wanting to spend it.
Well, I think it's reasonable to inform them that they're not likely to receive services from the referral if they have their own income.
That sounds like a really good solution.
If I may, just kind of put just a little bit out there, kind of how our office handles things, because I kind of wear multiple hats, if you will. So I do a lot of like the coordinated entry part, and then I also do part of the case management part, which has been honestly very wonderful to know both sides. So when I'm wearing my coordinated entry hat, I leave it up to the case management team when I do my coordinated entry, and I share with the client about kind of what the process will look like after they have talked with me, so that they kind of know their next steps, that they're going to be assigned a case manager. The case manager will set them up with a meeting, kind of go through some things with them, want to ask them a variety of questions. And then from there, that will determine what application they may be more eligible for, if any at all, based upon their needs. So, and then that kind of goes down programmatically where our agency stands, meaning like knowing what our programs are and what our programs cover. So if that's more like ERAP, you have a different income level that you're able to be eligible for, if that makes sense. But then if you're looking for like rapid rehousing or different programs like that, there's different eligibility markers. So if they have savings or they don't have any money at all, or what did they have any income in the past 30 days? So when it comes to hotels, we look at that is not a self-sustainable or a stable form of permanent housing. So a conversation might look like, from our end, might look like we may be able to assist you using, one of our programs if you're eligible and your application has been approved. So upfront, we don't tell anybody that this is what will happen, or this is where it's going to go. We let them know what could potentially happen, but then we're also pretty open with sharing with them of, if not, this may be an alternate route that you would have to take. But we do stress a lot that the hotel is not a sustainable way of housing. So it might be for a little while, but then there needs to be shown growth, like, is it a lack of a job or what have you? So we really do try to put it back on our clients to be encouraged to be self-sufficient and not relying mostly on us, because we are very upfront that if there isn't growth, then you're not giving us a lot of room to help you, if that makes sense. So we try to just, I hope that helps.
Yes, that's very insightful.
We do that too. I do want to say, like, when we do the CAT 2 referrals, if someone needs a CAT 2 referral, I'm also making sure they're getting in contact with our temp agencies in the career link, because a lot of those CAT 2 like resources and funding, there needs to be some sort of income to then support the rent thereafter. So if they have no income at all and there's no even plan for it, a lot of times they're going to end up getting denied. So I like to have that conversation before the case managers get to it, so that they're set up the best way that they can get the funding.
I love what Amber just said, and also people with disabilities, if they have not been able to get disability, I usually refer them to the Center for Independent Living to see if there's any list or people that could help them, representatives who could help them start applying for their Social Security if they need it and can't work, or voc rehab.
Yeah, this is a great conversation and really insightful. And I think it just speaks to the fact that every county is different in terms of what the housing stock and housing market and situation is. That unlike rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing, which are nearly exclusively funded by HUD and have very specific shared criteria, we have so many kinds of homeless prevention programs. And those programs are also an opportunity for people with some income to, get support for figuring out how to, better utilize that income to get into permanent housing stability. So any notes you take during a discussion, core entry intake notes that are going to help a homeless prevention case manager are great. Any additional resources you're referring people to access public benefits, financial budgeting, literacy counseling, legal services, those are great. And that's what we're hoping to formalize through the diversion work group planning process, is figure out what is a really most effective way for court and entry specialists to kind of help connect people, refer people to resources that are in this category 2 definition. So any other, this has been great. I don't want to cut this short. Is there any other feedback anyone wants to share on this discussion?
Well, my question is, should we put down they have savings on the notes or not?
I think you could document they mention they have savings, because that way a homelessness prevention case manager can ask them about that. I mean, I think they will anyway, but no, I don't think that's a problem personally. Brianna, did you want to comment?
Yes, I did just want to make sure. So if a client in a rental receives a notice to quit, but that notice states that they have like 10 days to pay their past due balance, but if they don't, then a formal eviction will be filed on that 10th day. I'm thinking that would then not apply for CAT 2 because they don't have that vacate date yet. Is that correct?
Well, essentially you're saying they have a notice to quit, but it's not telling them they have to leave within 14 days.
Right.
So they don't qualify, no, and I would refer them to legal services.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for clearing that up, Bree, because that was one of the questions I had too.
Well, we can always come back to this. That's the in future office hours or through our MS team. The only other thing I wanted to remind you before, well, there's actually 2 updates. if you utilize our training environment for test purposes or as kind of a sandbox to work on learning how to use all the features, that will have noted in the last several months that there was actual client data mixed in with fake client data. As of Monday, that data has all been removed. The training environment is essentially empty. The good news is it's more secure now. There will not be any more real client data in it. And you get to build new fake clients from scratch. So that's always fun. If you do not have access to the training environment or didn't realize we have a training environment, which essentially it's a replication of our real environment, our real HMIS, but it's completely safe. It's just for us to train in and test things out in. You can either request access to the training environment the best way to do it is to send a help ticket through HMIS and say, I'd like access to the training environment. I don't know the link or I don't know my password. That's the ideal way to get that information. You could also email Tony Diaz, our HMIS administrator. But probably the best way is to do it through a help ticket request. And then if you are not, I think I can say this, if you're not we're changing some team members. So let me start with this. Lauren's not here. Brianna, do you want to talk about your new role briefly? Just for the benefit of non-211 people around the table?
Sure. I'm Brianna Thomas with 211 South Central, and I'm the new CE trainer for 211. So I believe we do have some new specialists on the call today. I at least saw Haley, I believe. So we do have Haley Mon, Lindsay Blevins, and Jassity Santana. We are in the final stages of training, doing like the role play scenarios. I think we should be taking some live calls tomorrow. So that's very exciting. And see, if you were on the call, did you guys want to like quickly say hi and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lindsay.
Hey, Lindsay.
Hi.
And Lindsay and Haley are out of the South Central location as well. Jassity's with 211 East.
Great. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, I'm Haley. Yeah.
Hi, Haley.
Great. So the other announcement I have to make is Jennifer Taylor, who is our court entry DV specialist, if you don't know, and is on the Zoom, is leaving our network in 2 weeks and going to do some awesome work in another field. But certainly will be missed, has provided incredible guidance and support to court entry system in how to work with victim service provider organizations and people fleeing domestic violence and other forms of violence. So there will be a transition plan and there's no replacement for Jen, but there will be a new person in that position, assumably in March or April. And so Jennifer's last day with us is February 24th. So if you've been reaching out directly for questions or guidance around working with clients that are in the VSP system or fleeing violence, until you hear otherwise, please reach out to a court entry regional manager or a call center supervisor if you're a 211 specialist, and together we'll be able to provide guidance until such time as someone has been designated to fill Jen's role, either temporarily or permanently. So that's our this is the cake moment. Jen, here's your cake. I like that you're staying You're not even showing up. But you're there, and we appreciate you. And good luck. So, do you want to say anything, Jen?
I was just gonna say I would have my video on, but I'm doing this from my phone because my Zoom on my laptop would not allow me to update. So I'm sorry that I am a blank box. But no, just to reiterate, yeah, the last day will be the 24th. Contact me with any and everything up until that point. I'm meeting with staff at my home agency to figure out who will be the point person to direct questions to around like DV case management things, emergency transfers, all the stuff that you would usually come to me for. But luckily, regional managers are still present, Jason's still present, like all the main structures in place for those types of things. Those folks are still available. And I've had some discussion with my supervisor here, and I know this position is getting posted very, very quickly if they haven't already done it today, because they don't want to leave this open. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. So let me open it up to any other questions about any topic related to coordinated entry that we can help answer this morning, either through the chat or unmute.
Jason, before I leave, because I have to leave right now for calls, but when a domestic violence survivor wants to make a previous record unviewable, do we also let you know each time, or do we just put the help ticket in?
Please just put the help ticket in.
Okay, I didn't know because I know a long time ago we had to do that. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellie.
Have a good day. Bye.
Other questions? I think I saw people unmute and then remute, so happy to answer your question if you can stay on. Okay, hearing none and knowing that a lot of you have to jump off, thank you so much for your time today. And again, if you want to join the MS team, please send me an email. And hopefully we will see you next month at our next core entry office hour. Thank you.